Hi, this is the FLL Mentor channel. Our goal is to provide tips, tricks, and advice for FLL robotics. Please support this channel by subscribing to us on YouTube and following us on Instagram and Facebook. You can also help us out by shooting us an email, which is thefllmentor@gmail.com. Today, we will be helping you choose a good meeting spot. First, we will cover the necessary equipment, the amount of people, then the money, then the time commitment, and more. Let's get to it. Your board in robot game space. It's important to have an organized robot space. Not only do you need a good board, but also a good setup around the room as well. My team practiced at one of our houses, but a lot of teams practice at their schools. Wherever you work, I would suggest having separate rooms. For example, have one room for the robot, but have everything separated in a different room. Even if you only have access to one or two rooms, I would try to separate the robotics part from it from everything else. This is because it's vital to keep your board clean and not put anything on it. I'll talk about that later. So your table. Your table is obviously vital for your team's success. I'll go over how to build a board, where it should be, and some etiquette around it. So there's a link in the description to the official guide on how to build your table. Try to follow this build as closely as possible. One thing I'm going to be discussing a lot in these robotics videos is eliminating variables. One thing you'll notice about boards is that they're all different. At competitions, teams will usually volunteer to bring their own board to use for the competition. It's important to note that there are so many variables when using someone else's board. From knots in the wood to waves in the board, even to challenges not being built correctly. There's so many variables that you need to basically be ready for. You need to pick wood from your board that has the least amount of knots in it. And try to also pick wood that has the least amount of inconsistencies. Even the tiniest little wave in the board that you use for the bottom, it can really mess your robot off. Also, for some reason, teams don't paint the boards on the side black. I don't really know why they don't, but follow the instructions and do it. Even if you're not using your color sensors to sense that, just do it to eliminate variables. Also, read the instructions on how to put the mat on the board very carefully. Some teams don't know which side it's supposed to be pushed against, and just make sure you read it correctly. I also recommend putting your board on sawhorses so that you have somewhere where you can stand and work, and not just have it on the floor. Also, before each practice, it's a good idea to remove the dust from the board because robot wheels are very sensitive and they will skid. Not only is the table important, but make sure all of your challenges are built correctly. If you didn't know, the challenges are the things on your board that the robot will interact with. Sometimes the challenges aren't designed well, or even built well, or the plastic wears down. For example, during Trash Track, there was one challenge called the compost mission that always seemed to break. And every year there's usually one or two really sensitive, really fragile challenges that break easily. So just be aware of that. Another example is the octopus. So also during Trash Track, our team, your robot basically had to carry this octopus into a certain circle. And as you can see, it has two studs on the top of its head. It was made out of really soft plastic, and it eventually wore out. So be aware that pieces can break and wear down. Make sure everything is ready. One good way to do this is to assign everyone on the team to a few challenges. Before each run, that person will be in charge of making sure their challenge is set up. It's just a good way to make sure everything is consistent. Also, make good use out of the Velcro they give you. Just make sure that all the challenges are firmly put on the board. Table etiquette. So this sounds a little bit silly, but it's helpful to have a few rules around your table. For example, if the board is on the ground, make sure that everybody knows not to step on it, or no food or drinks on it, and things obvious like that. Even if it seems obvious, you might want to just clarify it. Where should your meeting be? Many teams meet at their schools or someone's house. Honestly, just pick a good environment where you can have space to work, preferably with 2 or more rooms. Also, make sure that there's a facility nearby to where you can eat, whether it be just a kitchen at someone's house or a restaurant nearby. Usually teams will meet after the school day or after the work day, and it's just really tiring, and just make sure everybody has good nutrition so they can focus at the best they can. Also, make sure there's a place to take breaks, even if it's just going and running outside for a little bit. It's really helpful to just take your mind off of it for a little bit. I want to say one more thing about nutrition. I already talked about it a little bit, but many times teams meet after school. And I don't know about you, but after school, not only am I tired and don't really want to work anymore, but I need a snack and a break. So my team was very lucky because we practiced at one of our houses and it was a 5-minute walk to great restaurants and to places where we could just go run around after school. Make sure that your team has proper nutrition and has had breaks before practices. Please don't make robotics sort of like a class you have to go to or an activity that you're forced to do. Make it something fun to where everybody wants to participate in it, not just they're forced to doing it. So how long should your meetings be? My team spent a lot of time meeting, and we would practice almost every weekend. And the months before the competition, we practiced every day. It depends on the attention span of your team, but try to get as much out of every meeting as possible. You don't need to be having 5-hour practices every day after school, but you should spend a few hours each week working. So just plan ahead. What should coaches do during meetings? Coaches, please remember your place. I really stressed this in the last video I made, but it's extremely important that you're following the core values. We do the work to find solutions with the guidance from our coaches and mentors. That's the core value. Please understand that you're not allowed to just hand your team answers, and your job is to help them find the answers. So that's what you should be doing during meetings. Hey, thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I covered some important topics here, and I hope you take them seriously. I'm very glad that you're interested in improving your team. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email at thefllmentor@gmail.com. Please support this channel by subscribing to us on YouTube and following us on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you.